For over 3 millennia, a massive, pulverized destruction layer has lain hidden beneath the Jordan Valley, marking the sudden and violent death of one of the largest Bronze Age civilizations in the ancient Levant. Yet the true cause of this ancient apocalypse has remained one of archaeology's most fiercely debated mysteries, leaving a massive gap between religious myth and historical reality. Recently, however, shocking claims emerged that could rewrite history. As headlines declared that at the proposed site of Sodom and Gomorrah, scientists find evidence of atomic heat. This staggering hypothesis suggested a cosmic airburst hotter than the surface of the sun annihilated the city in a fraction of a second, but the actual truth buried in the ashes is far darker and far more deceptive. To truly understand the magnitude of what happened, we must travel back to the Middle Bronze Age, roughly around 1650 BCE. Long before the rise of the great recognizable empires of iron and steel, the Jordan Valley was a fertile, thriving nexus of early human civilization. At the very heart of this region stood Tall el-Hammam, a colossal, fortified city-state that utterly dominated the surrounding landscape. It was a true metropolis of the ancient world, boasting massive defensive mud brick walls that were up to 30 meters thick and stretched for kilometers. It contained sprawling, multi-story palace complexes, sophisticated administrative centers, and a densely packed lower city. The agricultural terrace systems surrounding the settlement were engineering marvels of their time, specifically designed to capture and utilize every drop of precious water in what could be an unforgiving environment. For centuries, this city was the undisputed crown jewel of the southern Levant, a bustling hub of ancient trade, large-scale agriculture, and advanced bronze metallurgy. Its population dwarfed neighboring, more famous settlements like Jerusalem and Jericho. It was a beacon of human progress and stability in the region. But then, in what appears to be the blink of an eye, the city was gone. The archaeological record reveals a sudden, catastrophic, and deeply violent end to urban life at Tall el-Hammam. When modern excavators began digging through the millennia of accumulated dust and desert sand, they uncovered a highly unusual, dark, carbon-rich destruction matrix that was roughly 1.5 meters thick. This was not the standard gradual decay of an abandoned settlement that simply lost its economic viability over time. It was a scene of absolute, instantaneous annihilation. The destruction layer was choked with pulverized mud brick, shattered timbers from massive cedar support beams, incinerated grain that had been stored in large subterranean silos, and human remains that had been brutally torn apart and scattered across the ruins. Strangest of all, after this catastrophic event, the once fertile region was completely abandoned for over 600 years. It left behind a scarred, seemingly sterile wasteland that perfectly mirrored the terrifying biblical legend of divine retribution, where a wicked city was consumed by fire and brimstone raining down from the heavens. For decades, historians and archaeologists debated what could have leveled such an invincible, heavily fortified fortress. Was it the brutal siege engines and relentless fires of an invading foreign army? Or was it the devastating tectonic fury of the Dead Sea fault line that ran directly beneath the region? In the fall of 2021, a highly publicized blockbuster scientific study was released that claimed to have finally solved the mystery once and for all, and the answer they provided was genuinely terrifying. A team of researchers, many of whom were affiliated with an organization known as the Comet Research Group, announced that Tall el-Hammam was wiped off the map by a localized cosmic apocalypse. They proposed that a Super Tunguska-class meteor airburst was the culprit. According to their widely circulated paper, a massive space rock entered the Earth's atmosphere at an immense hypervelocity speed and detonated directly over the Jordan Valley. The resulting explosion generated a thermal flash of unimaginable intensity. The researchers claimed to have found physical evidence of temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Celsius at the blast site. To put that staggering number into perspective, that is hotter than molten magma erupting from a volcano, hotter than the melting point of titanium and entirely comparable to the devastating instantaneous thermal pulse of a modern nuclear detonation. They pointed to a chilling array of physical evidence to support their doomsday scenario. Within the dark destruction matrix, they documented thousands of pottery shards with surfaces that had been flash melted into liquid glass. They found bubbling mud bricks that had literally boiled from the intense ambient heat, and the presence of microscopic diamondoids, tiny structures that supposedly only form under the extreme, sudden pressures and temperatures of a cosmic impact. Furthermore, they claim to have discovered shocked quartz and anomalous spikes in rare elements like platinum and iridium. These are chemical signatures typically found only in the massive craters of asteroid strikes or at the ground zero of nuclear test sites. The researchers argued that the atmospheric blast wave was so incredibly powerful that it not only vaporized the city and its inhabitants in a fraction of a second, but it also boiled the shallow northern waters of the Dead Sea. This supposedly threw a massive cloud of toxic vaporized salt across the agricultural lands. This hypersaline fallout, they suggested, effectively sterilized the soil, causing the centuries-long abandonment of the region and directly giving birth to the terrifying ancient legends of fire and brimstone that would later be codified in religious texts. Before we dive into the explosive scientific pushback that completely dismantled this terrifying theory, what do you think? Drop a comment below and let me know if you believe ancient myths like fire and brimstone are based on real, terrifying cosmic events, or if they are simply exaggerated accounts of earthly natural disasters. When the study was first published, the mainstream media immediately seized upon the sensational narrative. News outlets around the globe broadcast the discovery of the biblical apocalypse, treating the Airburst theory as established historical fact. However, while the headlines confidently declared the mystery solved, the rigorous, uncompromising machinery of peer-reviewed science began to grind the Airburst theory into dust. The broader scientific community, composed of specialized impact physicists, veteran geologists, and experienced Levantine archaeologists, quickly mobilized to verify the data. What they found beneath the surface of the claims was a staggering house of cards. Independent impact geologists such as Stephen Jarrett and Robert Scott Harris took a highly critical look at the supposed smoking gun of the entire theory: the shocked quartz. True shocked quartz contains distinct microscopic planar deformation features. These are perfectly straight, parallel lines created exclusively by the immense, sudden shockwave of a hypervelocity cosmic impact. When Jarrett and Harris analyzed the quartz grains recovered from tall el-Hammam, they found that the fractures were completely non-planar. The lines were pinching, swelling, curving, and highly irregular. These are the exact textbook hallmarks of normal tectonic stress, or standard thermal damage, not a multi-gigapascal cosmic strike from the heavens. Given that tall el-Hammam sits directly on top of the incredibly volatile Dead Sea transform fault line, heavy tectonic stress is exactly what you would expect to find in the geological record. Furthermore, the chemical evidence presented in the paper was found to be heavily cherry-picked. The original study cited soil enrichments of platinum and iridium as undeniable proof of a meteorite. However, geochemical experts quickly pointed out that the authors had selectively isolated these specific platinum group elements to fit their narrative. A genuine cosmic impact leaves behind a very specific, recognizable suite of all siderophile, or iron-loving elements in a distinct, unalterable ratio. The tall el-Hammam research team conveniently ignored the missing elements in the soil profile that would have definitively disproven a meteoritic origin, choosing only to publish the data points that supported their apocalyptic conclusion. The evidence for the atomic-level heat was equally flawed. The researchers had claimed that the vitrified pottery and bubbling mud bricks required a thermal flash of over 2,000 degrees Celsius, a temperature supposedly impossible for ancient humans to achieve, or for a normal fire to generate. But materials scientists and experimental archaeologists pointed out that this was a gross, deliberate exaggeration. The type of melted clay, vitrified pottery surfaces, and slag found at the site actually requires temperatures closer to 1100 degrees Celsius. While 1100 degrees is certainly intensely hot, it is entirely achievable in standard Middle Bronze Age pottery kilns, which were found throughout the city. More importantly, this temperature is easily reached during a massive, prolonged city fire. Ancient urban centers were tightly packed with highly flammable materials, from heavy timber roofing and dried thatch to massive storehouses filled with thousands of gallons of combustible olive oil, animal fats, and dry grain. If the city fell to the torches of an invading army or was ignited by the collapsed hearths of a severe earthquake, the resulting localized firestorm would easily generate enough sustained intense heat to vitrify pottery and melt mud brick over several hours, completely without the need for an exploding asteroid. Additionally, leading physicists completely dismantled the computer models used to simulate the cosmic explosion. Experts in shockwave physics, including Dr. Mark Boslow, who had spent years extensively modeling the famous 1908 Tunguska event in Siberia, demonstrated that the tall el-Hammam team fundamentally misunderstood the basic physics of an atmospheric airburst. The original authors had inputted grossly exaggerated wind speeds and thermal temperatures into their digital simulations. They essentially forced their computer models to destroy the virtual city in order to match the physical damage they saw in the ground, rather than letting realistic physical parameters dictate the outcome. This brings us to a critical crossroads in the evidence, and I want to hear your perspective on how history is written. Tell us in the comments right now. Do you believe the destruction of this ancient metropolis was a global cosmic anomaly that struck from the stars, or a strictly local human-caused disaster fueled by ancient warfare and fault-line earthquakes? As the broader scientific community continued to pull at the loose threads of the airburst theory, the deepest scandal of Tall el-Hammam was revealed to be not in the ancient dirt of the Jordan Valley, but in the blatant modern manipulation of scientific data. The forbidden truth of this investigation is that the narrative was steered by deceptive, unethical practices rather than objective archaeological discovery. Forensic image analysts, most notably Dr. Elizabeth Bick, conducted a rigorous pixel-by-pixel examination of the photographs and charts published in the study. She uncovered undeniable evidence of digital cloning and image manipulation within the supposedly objective archaeological photos. Blast wave diagrams were artificially enhanced to look more impressive. Excavation photos contained repeating, clearly photoshopped elements that were used to hide labeling arrows, cover up inconvenient stratigraphy, or alter the visual evidence to better match their claims. Even the osteological analysis of the ancient victims was heavily criticized by leading anthropologists. In one particularly egregious instance that shocked the academic community, an assortment of random foot and leg bones was officially labeled in the peer-reviewed paper as a human lower torso, completely misrepresenting the nature of the blast trauma. The organization behind the paper, the Comet Research Group, has a long and highly controversial history within the scientific community. They have spent over a decade heavily championing the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, a fiercely contested theory suggesting a fragmented comet caused a sudden, global ice age and wiped out megafauna roughly 12,800 years ago. Critics and fellow scientists have long accused this specific group of consistently working backward from a profound desire to prove catastrophic cosmic events. They have a documented track record of bending, stretching, and omitting complex geological facts to fit a pre-written, highly lucrative apocalyptic narrative. Because of these overwhelming methodological errors, the highly selective use of chemical data, the blatant and unethical image manipulation, and the mathematically unsupported physical claims, the scientific publishing community was forced to step in to protect the integrity of the historical record. In April of 2025, the prestigious journal Scientific Reports took unprecedented, highly damaging action. Following an exhaustive, multi-year investigation into the paper's claims, its methodology, and its data integrity, the journal officially and completely retracted the study. The retraction notice explicitly stated that the claims of a cosmic airburst were not adequately substantiated. The presented data could not be trusted by the scientific community, and the dramatic conclusions regarding the destruction of the city were entirely unreliable. Here at Ancient Chronicles HD, our mission is to separate these sensational, heavily manipulated myths from hard, verifiable archaeological fact, bringing you the unvarnished truth of human history. If you are tired of fake history and pseudoscience masking as reality, subscribe right now and join our expedition to uncover the real past. The reality of Tall el-Hammam is a stark, sobering reminder that the true story of human history is often overshadowed by our modern desire for a spectacular, cinematic narrative. The sprawling city was not wiped out by a rogue meteor, nor was it the tragic victim of a localized atomic blast sent from the heavens to punish the wicked. It was a magnificent, complex human achievement that ultimately succumbed to the brutal, mundane realities of the ancient world. Whether it was the devastating, unpredictable tectonic forces of the Earth shifting violently beneath its massive mud brick foundations, or the ruthless, fiery siege of a conquering Bronze Age army setting its grand palaces ablaze, the true story of its fall is a deeply human tragedy. It is a profound testament to the ultimate fragility of human civilization in the face of natural earthly forces and the devastating consequences of ancient warfare. It is a reality that requires absolutely no embellishment from the stars, yet remains endlessly fascinating and deeply moving as we continue to carefully sift through the ashes of our collective, ancient past.